Mexican lit chefs, and magical ghost vloggers. So let's talk about the world building of my dark fantasy manga, Deepstalker Crow, that's currently being funded. So first off, this series takes place in the same world where my other series, Night of Slaughter and Devil's Deal takes place. And the story takes place in the East, whereas Devil's Deal takes place in the Chaos Plains and Night of Slaughter starts out at Tower of Babel. And this is important because in the timeline of things, Desolation, the god of pride, was still Orden, the god of battle. Which means that Deepstalker Crow is a glimpse into the history because in current timeline with where Devil's Deal is at, the East is wiped out. Like Desolation sent his military to literally wipe out all the other kingdoms. And he reduced the entire population by 99%. The only people left are basically scavengers. And this is excluding Cypher, Goddess of the Void's holy city. Back in the day, the East was thriving, where people could literally go on adventures and explore all sorts of mythological creatures that resided in that land. They could do this because the Deepstalkers were there to literally destroy the worst of the worst creatures, which were defined by things the guild, the military, and the local guard could not deal with. So even though the Deepstalkers had a fear on them, people relied on them to be able to live a comfortable life. And the East was far from just a copy and paste European fantasy setting. The cryptid vloggers here, how does that work? Well, really, it's a more advanced version of pictotourism that we see Bathoria doing after the hunt with an Imbara. So what you do is you get a mage to cast a special spell that records an instance that they can see. So in this instance here, we see that the camera is his eye. And then once he's done recording, then he'll actually go through and use a different spell to actually go through and edit the video that he's just recorded. And from there, that's when they use specialized Ellie crystals in order to transmit the spell's video into these crystals that can then get plugged into an apparatus and activated to show off the video that's going on. Okay, so what's up with the caked up lich? Well, our boy Pablo used to actually be homeless until one day a man came by and offered him some food. And Pablo was so ingratiated that eventually he ended up getting himself into the world of culinary wonders. And then later he ended up passing that grace to another person who actually ended up being a wizard who agreed to teach him magic in return for his kindness. And that's when Pablo came to the realization, I can use magic to cook. And so he wanted to be known as one of the world's best chefs. To hold that title, you got to go through Cypher, the Goddess of the Void. Because when it comes to the world of culinary wonder, Cypher is the judge of who holds that title. And so the stronger he got with magic, the more unique and rare items that he could actually put as ingredients in his cooking. Until eventually he reached the point where he was getting old, and guess what? Lichdom solves that problem. But becoming a lich had problems that we're not going to go into today that ended up keeping him as the manor keeper for the Deepstalker, and being a pseudo-dad for these unloved angels of protection. And yes, in the East, they do cook certain sentient creatures. But hey, it's no worse than the changeling milking farms in the Chaos Plains. But if you want to see a unique dark fantasy world with all sorts of cool races, consider following Mercy's journey as she tries to convince the world Deepstalkers aren't the enemy by backing my manga and getting your own copy. You can see my bio for all the links you need to grab your copy. We've only got 6 days left.